Make way.
When it comes to talking sports, they're the authority. It's Bob Walters and Brett Grasso. It's Locked Up Sports, and it starts now.
That's it. Bring them out, bring them out, hey. Bring them out, bring them out, yeah. Bring them out, bring them out, hey. Bring them out.
Here we go. Bob Walters, Brett Grasso, from the Brian Gunzel Studios. This is Locked Up Sports. It's a football playoff Friday. It's a different kind of Friday, one that we have not seen before. Brett, welcome to the show. We bring good news as Damar Hamlin is breathing tube out.
Yeah.
He FaceTimed the team.
Looks like he's going to be all right.
It looks like he's going to be all right, and we are going to find out.
I think he's got a long road to recovery, but I mean, it's really amazing if you were watching it and saw it, or obviously you saw it since.
It was crazy. I mean, to be honest, with my zero medical knowledge, zero medical expertise, I thought he had died on the field.
I'm going to be honest with you. The truth is he did.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I guess when your heart stops,
if nobody does what they do and you let it, that's that. And it's amazing to watch what we watched and see the medical personnel just absolutely spring into action, knowing exactly what to do, and to just give him a chance to survive. It's really amazing.
The Bills are retiring, putting in the Ring of Honor. I think the guy who did the CPR, I think that's this week, actually. They're going to put him in the Ring of Honor. There's all types of stuff going on throughout the league. There was a lot of charity that happened that night with his with Hamlin's Toys for Tots thing that he was doing. He wanted to raise $2,100 by midnight that night. There was like $5 million in the bank for that thing. We actually have an expert in the field to come on and talk about this, and he's going to be with us in just a minute.
Yeah. Really good info.
Dr. Mell is going to be with us in a second. And listen, I shouldn't say we have no. Brett's a nurse, so he knows more than I do. I really don't know anything about this, so I assume that most of you out there don't know anything about it. And we're going to try and educate you a little bit, tell you the importance of CPR and everything that goes along with that. But let's get right to it, Brett. Let's welcome in the guest here for today. Here's our interview for today. All right, now we're joined by Dr. Howie Mell. He is a board-certified emergency physician. He got his degrees in public health and medicine from the University of Illinois, Chicago. He's also a board-certified EMS, a member of the editorial board for International Trauma and Life Support. He lectures frequently throughout the country. He did his residency in emergency medicine at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, and he currently practices at a trauma center in Indianapolis. Doc, welcome to the show.
Hey, man, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Now, we all, America watched on Monday night as Damar Hamlin collapsed after a tackle. There was 9 minutes of CPR. We're just layman's people here. Explain to us what that whole thing, the scene that we watched on Monday night.
Well, so on Monday night, we got to look at this as we all don't know exactly what happened, but we know some things, right? There's really two ways that somebody's going to end up in cardiac arrest. It's always going to be either the brain and the spinal cord, or it's going to be the heart. I mean, those, at the end of the day, any process that goes on from cancer to trauma is going to eventually affect one of those two organs and cause the heart to stop. So something happened that caused his heart to stop. And so we have to say, okay, well, what happened? Well, we can pretty well take out the brain and the spinal cord, because if you're watching the game, he actually got up. It takes a couple of steps. Then he starts to stagger and trips over a Bengals player and hits the ground. And the Bengals player, realizes really quick. So he had to have some look on his face that something was really wrong. So he starts pointing immediately and getting help out there. So it's unlikely that it was the brain or the spinal cord, because those types of things would turn out your lights right quick. You wouldn't actually get up and take a couple of steps. So it was very likely his heart. Now, when it first happened, we were all talking about, every medical professional starting to talk about something called a chlamydia cordis, which is a problem that I think a lot of parents know about, because almost all kids nowadays who play pitcher in Little League wear chest protectors. And the reason is that there is a brief period of time, very brief period of time in the cardiac cycle. We're talking about a millisecond long, that if you pop the chest hard, you can actually cause the heart to stop. Because our heart is like an electrical ball, right? And it shoots electricity through. And then it has kind of a reset where all of the ions move to where they got to kind of reset within the cells to get ready for the next beat. And if you pop the chest really hard at just the wrong time, you can almost force the heart to give up a second beat when it's in the middle of resetting. And it can't reset from that second beat. Now, thankfully, that period of time is about 1 millisecond or 1/1000th of a second of the cardiac cycle. And you have to get hit in just the right spot in just the right time for this to cause cardiac arrest. But it does so about 20 times a year. That is reported to a national registry, and we estimate probably another 20 that were never reported. So it does happen. It's not super common. And I would have bet you, and most of my colleagues would have bet you, a good bottle of scotch that that's what happened on Monday night. But it's starting to look like that might not have been the case. And the reason I say that is this. When that happens and you get someone resuscitated, they usually bounce back fairly quickly. Because once the heart restarts, there's not a whole lot of structural damage that's done. It's more of an electrical problem, right? If you think about the heart's got vessels and it's got electrical circuits. So you got plumbing and electricity. And plumbing problems cause longer term issues. Electrical problems, if you survive them, they tend to be pretty easy. So he goes down, and if it was this hit, we would have expected to have him back up and out, in a day or two, and not have to be a long time with a breathing tube in. But what's come out is that they just, thank God, removed the breathing tube today. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of talk about the fact that his lungs had to heal. And that really points to something longer in origin. It's something more structural, right? Because if this wasn't something that just stopped his heart, it caused fluid to back up in his lungs, which means that the heart was likely beating ineffectively for some period of time. And there is a disease out there that strikes lots of athletes a year that's called obstructive cardiomyopathy. It is where the part of the heart that's normally responsible for beating and pushing all the blood out of the aorta, right? The left ventricle. When the left ventricle grows in such a way as to block the outflow of blood from the heart to the aorta, you can get a condition called HOCM, HOCM. And HOCM is a weird thing because the faster the heart beats and the more the heart beats, the worse it gets because it can't actually push blood out of the aorta. And when you read about athletes collapsing, and we've read about it for years, a fair number of them have undiagnosed HOCM. And we find it sometimes unfortunately on autopsy, other times with echocardiograms. And if that had been happening throughout the plays and throughout the game, that would have left him with fluid backup in the lungs after he was hit. And so that's the more likely now, based on the information we have. The third possibility is that there was just something that we'll never know. We call it idiopathic, right? It means we're idiots and pathetic and can't figure it out.
Yeah, but that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen very often, right? 24-years-olds don't just drop of heart attacks. Unknown, right?
No. Now, a heart attack is something different, right? A heart attack is when you actually block a blood vessel.
Right. Okay.
I was just explaining that to Bob before I go, no, listen, we got to explain the difference between cardiac arrest and heart attacks. I'm going to ask them so people don't understand, because people think they're just symbiotic and they're just not. They're just two different things.
Right, because like I said, there's two systems in the heart. There's the plumbing, that gets all the blood to flow around the heart to supply the muscle that is the heart. And when you have a blockage in those vessels, that's a heart attack.
Right.
And you're right, 24-year-olds don't get them because it would require it's kind of like wearing out a tire, right? A tire can blow, but you're not going to wear out a tire in 10,000 miles.
Yep.
Other things can happen, but you're not going to wear it down, right? It's the same thing with heart attacks. When you talk about diseases of the vessels, man, that takes time.
Yep.
And you're not going to see it in 24 years. But what you can have is there's a variety of things. We colloquially call them channelopathies. But basically, there are problems with the electrical flow of the heart, because that's a totally different system, the electricity. And so you can have these things. One of them is called Brugada syndrome. There's other, like prolonged QTC syndrome. But they're where the heart's wired wrong, and it just causes an arrest. We lost a dear family friend at the age of 4, and the only way they were able to figure out that this is what it was they tested everybody else in the family and showed that there was a genetic pattern, and that's what led us to the diagnosis. In his case, a prolonged QT. But sometimes there are electrical problems that we won't figure out. Because if nobody else in the family, or if there is nobody else to test, and we don't know the genetic markers for all of them, there can be a selection of this. But again, those tend to be like chlamydia cordis. They tend to be fast if you survive them. If you get the heart restarted, they tend not to cause a whole lot of problem with the lungs. And so I think if you had to pin me down right now, based on everything we know, it was probably HOCM. It was probably hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy.
Is that something
that
will affect them in the future, or is it treatable?
What kind of recovery are you looking at?
Yeah, so that's the issue, right? If you've got HOCM to the degree that it caused cardiac arrest, his career is probably done.
Okay. Wow.
How about,
because there's not a really good way. Unfortunately, what happens is it's the septum of the heart that overgrows. And the problem is, if you shave it down, it just regrows thicker again.
Yep.
So it's something he's going to have to work on, deal with basically the rest of his life.
Say, outside of athletics, can he live an everyday life, providing that he fully recovers at this point and, everything else pans out?
Oh, yeah. No. Lots of people do. And typically speaking, they'll put in pacemakers to slow, because really what happens with HOCM is the faster the heart gets, the less effective it gets. So the more it's beating, the worse it is. And so they'll actually put what are called overdrive pacemakers in place, so that they can keep that heart rate slow. They'll put you on medications to put the heart rate slow. But at the end of the day, treatments can help, but the condition can't be cured.
Okay.
And so if that's what it is, and I want to be very clear, I haven't examined him.
Correct.
I'm working on the same reports you're working on. And so I don't have any magic here. If it is HOCM, then yeah, that's bad. If it is some weird channelopathy and he just didn't, his lungs reacted bad to it, and those folks, the guys who came back from hits, and have been playing professional soccer for years after having events like this. And so, until we know more from his doctors, we can't. And I don't really want to get too deep into, well, if it's this, he's going to be screwed for life. If it's that, he'll be fine, because we really don't know. I think the one thing I would want everybody to take away is CPR saved this guy's life.
That was my next question. Tell us about how good was the response team, and how they deserve all the credit. I mean,
they coordinated is just amazing.
Absolutely, and realistically, guys, CPR nowadays, we don't do rescue breaths anymore. You don't have to. Now he had an advantage, right? There's a doctor, believe it or not, on the sidelines of every NFL game. It's actually employed by the NFL Players Association, whose sole job They're called the airway doc. They're a board certified emergency physician. Their sole job is to get a breathing tube into somebody if there's cardiac arrest, because the most likely cause of cardiac arrest in general would be a big, bad spinal injury. At least that's the one that we have to be afraid of in a football game. And so there's literally somebody who's paid on the sidelines whose sole job it is to get a breathing tube in. And while that was great, and I'm sure that it was done incredibly fast and certainly was done very skillfully, the key was getting CPR started.
Yep.
Right? The key was recognizing that he was in cardiac arrest and starting to push. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is CPR is not complicated. You just got to push hard and push fast. So if you come across somebody who is down and they're not waking up, truthfully, you don't even really have to feel for a pulse all that much.
No.
I mean, absent a football game, right? Start doing chest compressions. If they wake up and knock your hands away, great.
Yeah.
But realistically, you start doing compressions, and you do them to a depth of about 2 inches at a rate of 100 beats per minute, which happens to be the song "Staying Alive."
And Baby Shark, and Baby Shark.
And Baby Shark, and another one bites the dust if you're talking about your ex-wife collapsing in front of you. But, any which way it goes, man.
Why do you,
but you have to do it.
Why do you think they did it? Why do you think they left him on the field for 9 minutes? Because for me, that seems like a long time to be doing CPR.
Waiting to restore that pulse. They were trying.
No, they're waiting. Yeah, absolutely. You work them where you find them.
Yep.
The reality is, it is damn near impossible to do good CPR on the move. And so nowadays, we know that what you do is you work them where they are, and you don't move until you get a pulse back. And there's a lot of times in a lot of situations, and people don't get it, but nowadays, if you call an ambulance even, and your loved one's in cardiac arrest,
they don't leave.
They're going to stay right there.
They don't leave, and the people are yelling at them to leave, and it's a very difficult situation. But you look at the amount of coordination that these guys came in, the training that they had to all come together. It's kind of an amazing thing to see the response time that he had, and the recovery he had is really based on get in there and don't wait, and make sure time is so important in those situations.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, with what we know for sure, and what they've said several times, is he's completely neurologically intact. And that's a testament to the resuscitation, right? Regardless of whether he plays again, he is the person he was.
Yeah.
He remembers first grade, right? He's got the big heart that he's always had. He's going to have the personality that he always had. He didn't lose brain. And the reality is if you don't start that resuscitation and keep that resuscitation going, people will lose brain.
Wow.
And that's bad, right? Because a lot of times when we get somebody back medically, right, we'll get somebody back and we can get their heart restarted. We got tons of drugs, man.
Mm-hmm.
We got drugs, we got electrical machines, we got zappers, we got all kinds of stuff. We can get your heart beating again. I mean, heck, I can get my grandmother's heart beating again. She died in 92. Right? But the problem is the brain's gone.
Yep.
And where the CPR really helps, where this fast response really helps, is number one, it gets the heart started again much easier, right? For every minute that CPR is delayed, the chance of resuscitation falls 50%. I mean, think about that for a second. That's like every minute you're losing 50%. So you have to start early, but even if we manage to get it restarted, part of the reason that you have to have a successful resuscitation, you have to start early, is that brain's got to keep oxygen flow.
Yep.
Because if it doesn't, you'll get the body back, sort of, but you'll have somebody that the person that they were will have died on the field, right?
The organs may recover, but the amount of oxygen loss in the brain just isn't going to get the function back.
And no, it wasn't like a really big hit. It wasn't a big tackle that I saw. And like you had mentioned, the heart guards, and the way I looked at it is, I know shoulder pads almost come down to cover, the sternum and the heart area. Would you suggest that the NFL maybe improve on have these guys wear heart guards? I mean, they barely wear leg pads at this point. They're almost out there wearing nothing.
I think we need to figure out whether or not this was comedic coordinates, right? I mean, theoretically, that's going to be the first step before we start talking about protection. But the other thing is that we do know about the condition, and the reason that baseball players wear it and hockey players wear it is when we look at the registry, the overwhelming majority of these, not all of them, but the overwhelming majority of them, come from projectiles, either hockey pucks, baseballs, lacrosse, what do they call a lacrosse ball? Whatever they call a lacrosse ball.
Yeah, it's hard.
Hard. That punches have been known to do it. And so it tends to be a sharp projectile type of blow. Now, that said, the way that he got hit and the angle that he got hit, they might have actually been able to do kind of almost a CPR compression from the blow. If it was commiocarditis, then it was like then likely what happened was his entire thorax kind of got squeezed. Right, his forward momentum made his heart move forward in his chest and bounce off of his sternum, and that caused it. And the problem with that is, you're talking about deceleration and you're talking about a hit. And I don't know how you can remove a hit from football, right? I mean, the bottom line is he was moving in one direction, the other guy's moving in the other direction. The body's physically stopped, but the organs inside the body didn't.
It's almost similar to a concussion in an odd way, just bouncing off and that freak thing. Whereas, another thing the NFL could honestly improve their equipment on immediately if they wanted to.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's exactly it. The concussion analogy is perfect because it is. It's not, in the concussion, the brain's sloshing around. In this, if it was this commiocarditis, then it's really the heart sloshing around. I don't know that there's a lot of data. And one of the things that is hard too is, like I said, this is something that happens that we recognize and put in a registry about 20 times a year. So there's not a whole lot of data, right? We do know that projectiles cause it more. We do know that, people are like, well, it seems to happen in the young. Well, no, because the young are the ones who are playing baseball and football and hockey and lacrosse, right? We don't have senior citizens generally.
Isn't that part of the thing where typically a lot of this stuff is figured out more at a young age once they start playing those more impact sports and even not that, but other almost more underlying heart conditions with kids and stuff like that, whereas they don't even get to the NFL level because they would have figured it out by this point.
Right. And that's one of the problems with hokum, because if it is this hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy that I was talking about, it's an insidious thing. Because as you grow and age, it gets worse and worse. And so, if he has an echocardiogram at age 12 because somebody got a grant to do it for a bunch of Pop Warner kids, he might have only been at the high limit of normal at age 12. Yep. And now at age 24, having that supposed clean bill of health the decade before, it's grown. Right? I don't know about you, but my hand is bigger today than it was when I was 12. I'm going to assume my heart is too.
Yeah, the more you work it.
Now, this is an odd thing with the NFL as far as the heart goes. It's mostly been head injuries has been the big issue, and the CTE and everything that goes along with that. The NFL has been, listen, in the past, they've been terrible with this. They came out and they killed that doctor in that documentary, and they lied and they lied and they lied, and Goodell just lied about everything. They were almost like the tobacco industries. Do you think they do enough for the head
this one
injuries?
Happened right in front of everybody's face, though, on national TV.
Yeah, but the head injuries, you know what? These people...
They do, but it's more of a later effect.
You look at a 50-something-year-old NFL player, he almost looks 70. What do you think?
If you're gonna ask me, do I think in general they do enough for head injuries? No.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, listen, I got to be honest with you. I love the game, and I got two boys. They won't play.
Yeah. They don't play. That was going to be one of the questions. As well.
I'm telling you, I played a lot of Pee Wee football, and I didn't really play much any high school football. I don't recommend it especially for young kids. I don't think I would let my kids play either.
I won't. My boy really wants to play, and I won't. The problem is concussions, and the problem is, the insidious nature of them, right? You keep getting them again and again, and you lose brain. I mean, there's no question about it. Now, as far as what they could do to make it better, there's a lot of information coming out of Duke. There's a lot of studies that are going on, and I would hope that they're gonna move to make things better. That said, when it comes to the heart, at the end of the day, this is an incredibly tragic event, or almost tragic, right? Because you guys don't recover. But it is unbelievably rare, and so I don't know that we can yet say, oh, it's the NFL's fault. They need to do X, Y, or Z to improve this, because number one, we don't know what it is yet. Yes, to do a test for hokum, if it turns out to be hokum, that's actually easy. That's an echocardiogram. They could certainly afford it. It takes a couple of minutes, and there's no risk to a patient, right? It's an ultrasound of the heart. We could screen everybody in the league for hokum, but the question is, are you going to find, how many of them are you going to find, and what are you going to do with the ones that you do find, and you destroy their career when most of the folks who've gotten to this age and to this level of play, this thing has made itself apparent, and really, how many times has this happened, right? We know that there's been one other on-field death, and it wasn't hokum.
Yes.
So if that's what this was, then you got one case of it. If it was Kavito Cortis, you got one case of it. And so and that was kind of my point when I said, we've only got this registry of 20 per year. It's hard to get any kind of a recommendation, right? The problem with concussions and CTE is there was a ton of data, and there still is. And the doctors who were initially, sounding the alarm were silenced. But they were able to use, hundreds and thousands of cases of, these brain damaged, punch drunk guys, right? Because it's not just the NFL that they had data from. They had data from boxers. They had data from hockey players. There's plenty of brain injured folks out there. There's not a whole lot of folks who drop at this age that we can get the same kind of studies together to robustly say this is how you prevent it. Because, if you're talking 20 times a year and you say, okay, well, the NFL, we changed something, right? We changed the pads, and we don't have another case like this for right. 10 years. Is it because we changed the pads, or is it because we weren't going to have another case of this for 10 years?
Yeah, and the NFL's a business. They're greedy. They're just like any other business. Businesses need to be forced into stuff.
But if nothing else, let's hope this brings to light, just the overall, let's look at any safety improvements. Yeah, you're right. If you focus all the money and all the energy specifically on this one thing, honestly, it may not even prevent another one. And if you can go out and just overall protections is really the NFL to be brought to light in the public with everything. They really need it.
Well, there's two things I would say that. Number one, what it really should do is get everybody to take CPR. Bevan, I'll send you guys a link to a video that I did a number of years ago. The video alone will teach you how to do CPR, and will teach you why to do CPR. Right? You guys can put that out with your show notes. But
absolutely.
Number one, the NFL should be getting behind everybody learning CPR. Mm-hmm. There's no reason not to do it, right? The only reason is to not do CPR is you got no arms and no legs.
Yep.
Yeah.
Everybody else should be able to do it.
Too easy, too simple. Your loved one falls in front of you, and you can do something about it. And a lot of people don't.
And the other thing that the NFL can do, if they want to do something about this, and we gotta give a shout out to the New Orleans Saints, right? Because they led the way in this, but they turn around and they have bought AEDs, right? Yep. That's the other part of this. If the electricity is a hard fact, AEDs are tremendously helpful, and he was defibrillated on the field. Now, he was defibrillated by a doctor saying, I detect a rhythm that needs to be defibrillated, but we've got machines we got AI that'll do that for you, and they're relatively cheap. And so
we have a mandated in New York where we are. We have a mandated public schools, fields, all government buildings.
We got them in the jails.
And let me tell you, we've had many kids and many people in general, because a lot of times it's just people in the stands. You know how many people are alive just from that?
Yep, absolutely. Actually, what's funny is they put them in the airports in Chicago, and it's a great story, but the first person saved was a priest saved by an off-duty fireman.
That's amazing. Wow. I've used it many times. I've used it in the jail more times than I can count. Done CPR more times than I can count. And let me tell you, quick response time, people around you that know what they're doing, and just honestly, just doing the simple things is what works.
So we got to give that shout out to the New Orleans Saints, because they went around to all of the athletic facilities around them that didn't have them, and apparently they have bought hundreds of AEDs for places where they weren't. And so if the NFL really wants to get behind and do something about this, I think what they have to do is look at the youth who are up and coming and look at their fans and say, look, we got to teach CPR. We got to equip everybody with AEDs. We got to get it so that response, that wonderful response that saved Hamlin, we got to get that to everybody because we have that technology. We have that knowledge. You know, this has been a public health push for years.
You're going to be able to have that in your pocket soon.
Yeah.
There's no reason why not.
I mean, well, and there's absolutely no reason not to do CPR because the reality is, even if you don't have the AD super close, right? If you're doing CPR, you can keep the heart in fibrillation for a good couple of minutes while they get you that AED. But AEDs need to be out much more in the public than they are, and you need to be able to access them. And people got to know how to use them, and they're really easy. Like the most basic ones will actually tell you every single thing.
You open that thing up. I'm telling you, it's very simple. They lay it right out in front of you.
Now, where can people go to get CPR trained? Can they go to the hospital? Where can they go?
You can go to hospitals. You can the American Heart Association teaches, the American Red Cross teaches. Most fire departments offer classes.
Ambulance companies, yes.
Ambulance companies offer classes. And like I said, I will send you guys a video that I did back in 2012 when we first introduced the idea of hands-only CPR, where I was the medical director, and it goes through it, right? 10 minutes, you're going to be able to learn. You're not
Please do. We will post that on our social media. That's important. And that's the biggest stuff. You can learn all this stuff and other stuff. YouTube, all this stuff. So, let me tell you, you want to learn, you can learn it right away.
The NFL's got a problem because a lot of doctors are just like you, doctor. They're saying they don't want their kids playing. And the NFL is going to have a problem eventually with that.
No, absolutely. But in this case, I got to be honest. In this case, I'm not thrilled with the way that they were trying to leap right to playing again. Their response is what saved this guy's life, right? I mean, we can't, and I think I sent you guys that picture, but
yes,
we cannot overstate the fact that the guys who are making the least money in the stadium, the guys who were on the ambulance, a couple of paramedics that were part of that resuscitation team, were among the most key players out there. I mean, this was the trainers. This was the team doctors, and this was the EMS personnel that allow us to be talking about how we should all be praising God because this guy's waking up and he is himself, versus if we weren't, right? If they weren't there, if they didn't do their job there as well as they did it, they would, we'd be talking about, how nice of a funeral this was.
Wow. I mean, listen, they did a great job, and it was great. They did the job. They have an hour-long meeting an hour before the game. They have a big meeting with exactly what to do with this, and you heard they released
hours
the
and hours and hours and years of training to make it just to prepare for this, and the people can look at them and waiting for stuff like this to happen, and the moment is they were ready.
Yep.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what training is. I mean, even down to the fact, if you ever watching a game and you see a guy who's in a polo shirt and a red hat on the sideline, that's not a political statement. That's the airway doc.
Oh, wow. I didn't know. Yeah.
Everybody knows the guy with the red hat.
So important.
That's the airway doc. Get out of his way. He's going for the airway.
Wow. Well, listen, we really appreciate you coming on here, Doc. This
really
is
great spot.
Important information. Send us that video. We want to put it up, and we're going to point everybody in the direction to go get their CPR training. Make sure you get it done. His name is Dr. Howie Mell. Doc, really appreciate it.
Hey, anytime, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you, Doc. A special thank you to Dr. Mell. Excellent interview, excellent information. CPR is very important. And I also want to give a special thank you to Jocelyn McCormick, a good friend of mine. She's a doctor herself, an ER pediatrician, emergency pediatrician. She's another great doctor. Listen, great job by her. She actually got me in touch with Dr. Mell to get that interview rolling.
Let me tell you, that was some really good, very specific information that,
Yeah, and that Holcomb thing that he mentioned, I haven't heard that.
Let me tell you, looks like some pretty good insight. Tell you that much. He knows what he's talking about.
And I also didn't know that after, if it was the cardiac arrest where he got hit at the right time, at the right spot, that he would have been, he expected him to be better.
Yeah.
Basically out of the hospital in a day or two.
Well, that's it. Honestly, it's, because things happen like that all the time where it's like, honestly, you go into AFib and people just get reshocked back into whatever. This would have been a cardiac arrest where your heart gets restarted. But if nothing else was wrong, and your heart got restarted, there's no other damage.
Well, yeah, I mean, machines can keep you alive forever at this point.
Right, but yeah, like you said, depending, we'll see. Honestly, I think we're going to find out a lot about what happened, or at least what they know more, because right now it's just small details. But to see him today,
everything.
To see him today come out,
talking to his teammates,
FaceTime his team, actually be able to verbalize that he loves them today, that he's talking to his doctors. It still is very difficult after you had the tube down your throat and all that stuff. And they said he has a lot more recovery to do, but his lungs are recovering, his brain functions there.
That's the big thing is the brain function. Because like the doc said, you're not the same. You could be alive, right? He could bring his grandma who died 20, 30 years ago back to life, but it's not going to be the same person. Even if you got if you lose brain injury, if you lose brain, you're just you're almost like a vegetable, as horrible as it is to say. And the fact that he's doing better makes it easier now to actually transition into talking about the games.
Well, that's, I think the Bills were going to have a tough time playing if he wasn't doing well or didn't recover.
I think
how do you do there if your teammate was?
I don't think they would have played. I'm not somebody that's getting on the NFL about why didn't they cancel it right away? And listen, I guarantee they never considered playing that game, and the players weren't going to play it either.
No, I know, but the fact that at some point they put it in the coach's decision, it's somebody at some whatever the point was. If they ever played that game, it would have just totally.
I don't think they ever.
No, I know it would have been the worst decision ever. Well, people, let me tell you, we were standing around watching, and people were like, I think most of the people thought they were going to play that game.
Well, you know what it is. The NFL did a bad job.
I was literally like, "There's
no way they were going to."
I looked over, and I was like, "There's no."
They should have put that out there. Listen, they left Joe Buck and Aikman hanging out to dry. They would come back every 4 minutes. They have nothing to say.
You've seen it or even been involved in it. If you've done CPR, or you've seen a friend or someone or even someone just been involved in it, it is traumatic. To I'm sorry, that is not something that I would be able to. We were talking about it at work because I was on the medical unit. People I've done CPR with a million times, and to watch them. It's just amazing.
You made a good point. They got to cut his face mask off. He's sweating everywhere.
They got to cut his chest, his shoulder pads off. It's a very difficult situation to deal with.
And every second counts is so valuable when you're not getting blood to the brain. But now listen, the NFL did a bad job with a lot of stuff there. They were never going to play this game. But like I said just before, they hung Aikman and Buck out to dry. They came back every 2 minutes or 5 minutes from commercial. They had nothing to say. At least give them some kind of something. What are we doing with the game?
No, you have to be going even back to a studio or whatever. You can't just be panning around the stadium.
But nobody had anything. They went back to the studio and they had nothing to say. You can't talk about football. You can't just throw another program on. I think they all did as best a job as they could.
They did do a good job, and a lot of the
I wonder what the radio calls were like. I haven't heard that, or I haven't heard anything about it. I actually just thought of it. But what do those guys do? You can't talk about the football.
I really
it's 7-3 and this is what's going on. So. But now, because he's better, a lot of people are off the hook. But again, much praise, great job by this. The trainers.
It all goes down to that medical staff that came out there and listen. Once you realize that they're going to be out there for every game and still going to be out there for the rest of them, and they're going to do their prep and pregame, and this isn't some one-off where it just so happened they happen to be there. Yeah, these are guys who go in there, and let me tell you, not for big money. And we talked about this in the interview. These are guys who are going in there for not what you think. And honestly, if you want to talk about the person on that ambulance, let me tell you, if you think that it's just because it's for the NFL that they're getting paid $500 an hour, they're not.
No, they get.
Let me tell you, they're getting
$20. They're lucky they get 25. Yeah, 18.
And depending on what city, we're talking New York. No, you know what? You're right.
18. New York can do a little better.
No, of course, but even let me tell you, half the time it's volunteering.
Well, yeah, I guess
you come around here and then they're volunteering, and you look over and go, these people. How many other jobs? You think there's going to be Fortune 500 CEOs going? You know what? I'm going to take 20 hours of my week to go train over here, and then I'm going to do it for free. When you don't even make enough money to barely pay your bills.
Yeah, and listen,
you know what?
Yeah, let's see.
Good for them.
And the NFL's a business. They got the NFL's bad. The NFL's a bad people.
You know what?
Goodell shouldn't be be commissioner.
Just don't forget that the people out there that are doing those things are not getting rich when they do it. And listen,
they're not getting rich.
I do this, and I watch the people I work with.
You're rich, Brad. Look at the studio.
But listen, you know what? I watch the people that I work with, and we get it every so often, and more often than you think. Where it goes, we got a chest pains down here, or we got an unresponsive down there. And when you watch the people, nobody cares whether it's an inmate or whether it was a football player or whatever.
No,
it is a
you can't.
full-on sprint with everything we have when you get down there. And I've watched it where the guy was cold and never made it, and I've watched it where the guy had no pulse, no breathing, and came fully back and walked back in my door 6 hours later.
Yeah.
And you know what? These people...
All it is CPR. You could learn this at home.
I know
Anybody
it.
can learn it.
But all I know is these people should be supported. They should be paid right. They should be taken care of, too, on top of it.
That goes back to the same thing. They're public employees. They don't make money. They don't make money for a company. Now, listen, some of the private ambulance companies make money, but I'm not going to get into that. But if you don't make money, like teachers, of course teachers deserve to be paid a lot more, but there's no money. You know, what are you going to do? They don't make money for someone, then you're not going to get paid.
Cheers to all those people who go out there and,
hey, listen.
They do it for the right.
They did a hell of a job. And you know what? This guy's life has completely changed. He is now a hero forever because now his life will change. But most of them do not get the chance to save the life of a football player on an NFL field. They're doing it in your house, or they're doing it at your job or somewhere like that. We're both certified CPR.
Yeah, but it happens random, man. I watch it at the gym. Let me tell you, 3 times now at the gym. CPR AED, 3 times. 15 years I've been going there.
That's all the out of shape people going for New Year's resolutions?
Just inevitable in life that's going to happen.
I mean, yeah, it's crazy that, it happened. And like I said, it's good that he's better. He's getting better. He seems to be all there. He seems to no brain loss or anything like that. So now we can talk about football because, it seems like he's going to be okay. Will he play again? Probably not. And that's what the doc said. Yeah. But, that is what it is. That's
but we do have a big weekend.
Big weekend. Final weekend in the NFL. Week 18, the second week 18 ever, right? They did one last year. Second week 18.
Some big games that are very specific Tennessee, Jacksonville to win the division.
So Tennessee, Jacksonville tomorrow night. And
tomorrow night
good
to win
game.
the division.
Tennessee, Jacksonville.
Saturday night to win the division.
These are your playoff games. Tennessee, Jacksonville's a playoff game. Win in, loser goes home. Jacksonville has a way to back in, but
Tennessee's floundering. Jacksonville's on the way up. They're playing in Jacksonville. Also,
Jacksonville's a 7.5 point favorite.
Is that what the number is? I like it.
Tennessee is getting some of their defenders back that they've been missing.
I think they win by 4.
Derrick Henry's playing.
They win by 4, but it's going to be...
Derrick Henry's back. He's going to play.
Wow.
He's had a bad year.
7.5 point favorite with Derrick Henry back.
They don't have a quarterback. That's the problem. And one of the better up-and-coming quarterbacks in the league is the Jacksonville quarterback.
Oh, yeah, he is. Ugly, but yeah.
Yeah, he's a weird-looking dude. But let's... the other... Lions-Packers, that's Sunday night.
Aaron Rodgers, how did he pull this one off?
I don't know.
They ripped him a new one. We did. Packers are out. You could probably go back. I don't even know what I said, but it was definitely give up on the Packers.
Yeah,
I gave a lot of credit to Jacksonville and the Lions, but the Packers wrote them off.
The Lions now... Listen to this. The Lions started 1-6.
Yep.
Okay? They will be only the second NFL team in history to make the playoffs after winning only one of their first 7 games.
Wow.
They were 1-6. And you know what it was? You don't even see the Lions because you're like, okay, Lions are 1-6. It's over. You just forget about the Lions. They come into town. They played both of the New York teams this year.
You got to get some stats on how many teams have not made the playoffs when they're 6-2.
And yeah, I said Brett. I said that on the wrap-up show that you don't listen to. I said that the Jets. What a disaster for the Jets! They were 6-2. Pittsburgh was 2-6.
Yeah,
and it's like they knew who they were because Pittsburgh's a good franchise, legendary franchise. The Jets a legendarily bad franchise. They both kind of went to their corners. The Jets just blew it down the stretch. The quarterback play ran him right into the ground. Mike White was hurt last week, I guess. But the Jets no-showed.
Well, he can't even play this week, supposedly.
But the Jets no-showed for 3 games this season.
Yeah.
The Jacksonville game, the New England game,
we were
and
one
last
Joe
week.
Flacco start away from going to the playoffs.
And why has nobody asked why didn't Joe Flacco play?
No, he's ready now. We're ready. Now it's time.
Playing.
It's Joe Flacco time.
No, it's time. He's going to retire. That's what I think it is. They're like, okay, Joe, you can go out, you can have one, but who cares?
No, the worst part is this week, Salah's out there doubling down on Zach Wilson, talking about how we're going to figure this guy out. We're going to go out there and we're going to go grind with Zach.
Do you think do you think there's a chance he could lose his job? Because he's been bad now.
I don't. I'm not saying that he.
A lot of the quarterback issues are his doing.
The problem is Do you know how hard it is to have a winning season after you change a coach? I know. Listen, Giants doing pretty good.
Jets, we're doing great.
Typically, you're talking a new system. You're not talking about a new coach. People say, oh, yeah, new coach is... No. You're talking about, okay, remember those plays from last year that we finally got comfortable with, and next year we're going to grow on those and move forward, even with a different piece in place behind...
Well, it's a new offense.
No,
It's new
change
offense.
it. Change it all. No, defense, offense, this coach is going to manipulate everything. Coaching staff, remember that guy you go to in the office and you like, and no, he's not there anymore. Bob, changing a coach is like restructuring your entire thing, and you already had I'm just saying that.
But
sometimes you need to commit. No. If you never commit to somebody for a few years, listen, we've had bad coaches that were like, we got to get rid of him. We still committed to him and stayed for a few years. I'm talking about, listen, some bad coaches. Now we got one that is, listen, I don't think he was the best choice. I think he's a defensive guy. I think with the right offensive mind, I don't care who it is, who's running the show, calling the right plays. You need a quarterback, obviously. I think the Jets have a shot. So
listen, what
it's going to be Salah next year.
What
put
about
it that
Harbaugh?
Way.
Do you want Harbaugh?
But it's going to be Zach Wilson as your backup.
Do you want Jim Harbaugh as your coach?
It's going to be ready.
Salah?
It's going to happen. They're going to bring in somebody. Don't know who. Don't know what level of starting quarterback.
Yeah, you just got screwed. Exactly. You can't make him now a back. You need to do this at the beginning. Sit him a year.
I don't want him at all. I'm just saying that someone from up top, the GM, saying we can't take the salary hit, so we're going to keep him, and he's going to be our backup. And in the NFL, if you look around,
no, that's a disaster.
No, you look up. A backup is starter for at least a third of the season. If you play in the NFL, your backup is your starter for a third of the season. So. No, I'm not saying he's a bad backup.
Screw him up even more, Brett.
Screw up who? He's never going to be our quarterback. This is not about him being our quarterback.
So where does White go? White's gone? 20 million somewhere else? Backup somewhere? Because he's a backup now.
He could be the starter. I'm not saying he's one of the... No. I'm saying he's one of... No, I'm saying if we don't get our hands on Jimmy G or one of the other guys, possibly. Good chance it's White. It's just that Zach Wilson is a project that the Jets are trying to pawn off on somebody else.
Yeah, well, he's the number 2 pick. You can't let go of your number 2 pick after 2 years. Now the problem is, you're right. They might
you can't hold on to guys that suck. That's it.
I agree.
You cannot. Years are precious. People look at it like one more year of whatever or this many. No. You waste. When you're bad, you can wait all the time in the world to try and get better. When you're a good football team with a good defense and honestly, they have a good offensive line. Once you give them an off season of getting healthy, their offensive line's good. They just nobody was on the field this year.
But
next year when they come back, let me tell you, you go, oh my God, Fant, Vera Tucker. These guys are good offensive linemen. Not one of them was healthy this year and on the field. And then you got a decent quarterback in there with, Breece Hall comes back and you'll wait a minute. These guys are in their second year, those guys who were rookies this year?
Yeah, but Brett, you blew the second pick overall, and you blew the quarterback.
It doesn't matter. You only blow it if you let him stay and let him play. You didn't blow it if you let him go.
So now what if he goes somewhere and becomes something? Who's better?
You may not be able to afford to let him go.
Good.
You just let him sit and play. It doesn't matter what pick you were. It matters how much you make, and that's your cap space. But you can be a backup who ends up starting when the other guy's
out. You want $20 million sitting on the bench, and you want to get another good quarterback, then you can't afford all the rest of your team.
So you want $20 million in the garbage?
No, the cap hit's not 20
million. It's 15.
Million. Okay, okay. But you're talking about paying an expensive quarterback
it's as much
and
as
have $20 million sitting on the bench and then still having this good Super Bowl caliber team.
I'm all for getting rid of him. I'm saying that right now they're propping him up. I don't know what they're going to end up doing with him.
If
I'm
he's
just
on
saying
the team, start him.
They're just sitting there saying you can't trash the guy. He's on your team. He's your asset. You don't trash your asset.
Yeah, but you have a garbage asset. That's what you have. No money.
It doesn't matter.
Money on the garbage.
It doesn't matter. Assets go up and down. Right now, value is based on what someone else's needs are or whatever it is. Listen, right now it's all about cap space. That's the only reason Zach Wilson's on the Jets. If Zach Wilson was any other pick, he wouldn't be on the Jets.
That's why they're not going to have.
Now, at some point, they decide the cap hit's worth it. They might decide he's worth. Hold on to him. Or listen. These are all possibilities.
Listen, I think they should go back to the way they used to do. These guys, you don't have to be great when you first start.
But there is a very good chance that Zach Wilson starts football games for the Jets next year.
Yeah, and what was it? He wasn't bad in the first. Was he bad last year? He had some bad games, but he got hurt. For them to throw the second pick out in the garbage
there's
already.
Also other decisions that are beyond his abilities. His abilities also come with the day after the season, the Jets are going to go, okay, you're coming to do this or you're coming to do that, and we're going to see if you can make improvements. You can also, and if he decides not to come.
They can't do that anymore.
No, listen, I understand, but you're going to go no if he's making
anymore.
No, I understand, but the guys either make, listen, every athlete right now has a choice. There's the athletes who go out and go James Harden and go directly to the strip club, and the rest of them go directly to the gym. That's it. There's no other options anymore, like in all this. And Zach Wilson, he's going to go to the gym and he's going to try and make improvements.
Yeah, he strikes me as more of a strip club guy. Like
well, there you go.
Out, and
the Jets are going to know. And if they do, they're going to say we're in or we're out or whatever.
Okay, so we're out. So you're out on them, right? Okay. And then you lose. And then you got a $15 million cap hit. Is it better than the $20 million to have him sitting on the bench? They should have shot him the first year.
You still got to go sign a backup quarterback now, Bob.
Yeah, but you're not okay. So sign a backup.
They're not cheap.
You're not talking about backup quarterbacks. You're talking about Jimmy G and Lamar Jackson.
No. I'm saying after that, you still got to sign a backup quarterback.
Mike White. You give Mike White. There's $12 million. He's a backup quarterback. He's not getting starter money anywhere.
Now you're talking about releasing him, giving White $12 million and signing. It's not possible.
Yeah, and that's why.
That's why
when you have the number 2 pick, you can't.
Mike White is either your starter next year and you pay him, and he's your starter, and then you have a backup that's your number 2 pick, or you move on and go find somebody who has proven themselves,
which is just as expensive as cutting Zach Wilson and having Mike White as your backup.
Mike White. If Mike White's going to cost what you're saying, then what's the point?
Because he's going to get backup money. He screwed up. I don't think he's a starter after this last week. He blew that game. He has not played well now in a while.
No, but he's going to get some money next year.
He'll get some money.
Listen,
yeah,
I'm all for it.
Backup money. Listen, this folks, this right here, this argument, this is why when you have the number 2 pick and you're going to take a quarterback, it's so important not to screw it up. And the Jets screwed it up like they screw everything up then forever.
If you didn't know that was screwed up right away, it was pretty obvious.
Sam Darnold was a better pick than Zach Wilson. He turned out to be, he's not bad. He's not terrible.
No, Sam Darnold, listen, the point of getting rid of Sam Darnold to add Zach Wilson is the most moot point in the history of football.
But that's what you're going to end up doing right here. He's going to go somewhere else. He's going to be good, and then you're going to be like, oh, he screwed it up again.
But for the first time in history of the last decade of the Jets, they have a team where someone would go, oh, I'll come play for them.
So now
quarterback, I'll play for him.
So now Michigan is in big trouble. They got all kinds of violations that the NCAA is looking at. Jim Harbaugh is ready to hightail it out of town because that's what college coaches do. Do you want Jim Harbaugh as the Jets coach?
No.
You're crazy. He's one of the better football coaches in America.
I'm not. I like I said, for the same reasons. I'm just not into full transition
Switching
mode.
coaches.
It's just too much. Like, doesn't matter if you have you're going to have. I've learned that if Parcells says he's going to sign up or Belichick, you say yep. But Jets outside of that, to go do it for some random guy who's not, Belichick.
You think Jim Harbaugh is just some random guy coach?
No,
he was Super Bowl coach.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that it's a new system, and to come from college and leaving for the reason of there's a scandal starting, see you later, and a guy who may not be as all in as you think he is on wanting to be an NFL coach.
He was an NFL. He was a good NFL coach.
No, I'm not saying he's not. I just I don't know.
Okay, that folks, Jets are screwed up. Jets are screwed up. We got a long way to go with the Jets. They're not as close as everybody thought they were, apparently. But now let's get to the games that matter. This week, Tennessee at Jacksonville. Tomorrow night, basically a playoff game. Jacksonville can back in if all the rest of the teams lose that they need to lose. Like we said, Henry coming back. You like Jacksonville? Jacksonville's red hot. You know
listen, I wouldn't, but I don't know. It depends on how healthy Derrick Henry is. I like Jacksonville to win this game. But if Derrick Henry, no matter who your quarterback is, if he wants to have 200 yards, you're going to have a rough day.
Like that this year. He hasn't.
No,
really
he isn't. That's why. Yeah, and he's probably coming back at 70% and trying to push it.
And what Jacksonville did last week they didn't need to. That was a meaningless game last week. It was already set up after the Jets game that this game was happening. Tennessee at Jacksonville. Yeah. It was going to be a playoff game, so they didn't have to play. They went out there and they played. They played hard. Now the Giants. Now, they kept it rolling, right? They blew out the Texans. They blew out the Texans. Now they're rolling into this game with Tennessee at home. It's going to be a big crowd Saturday night. America will be watching. Now, the Giants have the same type of situation. Do they play everybody? Now, in 2007, when they beat the Patriots, the undefeated Patriots, they played the Patriots the last game of the season. It was meaningless for the Giants. They went full out, played great, lost at the end, close game. That's one of the main reasons they won that Super Bowl. They rolled right through the playoffs.
No, that's not what you do. You do the classic thing. You take off, all right? You rest.
Peyton Manning took off.
You rest, and you go right to Miami on that boat trip.
Or if you're the Mets, you go to Miami and get a cab somewhere.
Listen, private flight, boat trip.
I think a boat trip is a bad idea.
Shirts off.
Just for the record, I think a boat trip
bottles.
Is a bad idea.
Shirts off, bottles, sign Odell.
Sign Odell, yeah.
That's it. Championship.
No, they listen. I think the
Wild
Giants should
card
play.
champions.
I think they should play everybody. I don't think they're going to. That's why the Eagles are a 14-point favorite. The Eagles are better than the Giants anyway. Let's be real. But the Eagles haven't been playing well.
Tom Brady does not agree with you. Tom Brady says play.
Yeah, Tom Brady. Yeah, and then nobody wants to play.
They were like, there's no reason for the Bucs to play. They are the 4 seed no matter what. They should not be playing this game. Tom Brady's very old. He's frail. Frail.
We've gone over this, absolutely.
Frail man.
And he says play, right?
He wants no. Everybody else wants to take the day off. They're tired. They're old. They need rest. This is one of the oldest teams in the NFL. They could use a break, and honestly, they can win a playoff game. We know they can. I'm not doubting Tom Brady.
No, yeah, of course.
But he decides I want to go out and play, and so now everybody else has got to play.
I think you got to listen to Tom Brady. He knows better than any of us. But and look at what Peyton Manning used to do. The Colts used to have that 1 seed wrapped up every year. He would sit the last week, and then they lose in like the divisional round because then back then you got 2 weeks off because you got the 2 buys. This year it's only 1 bye, and it's probably going to be Kansas City. They're going to beat the Raiders. Now the other that's going to give them the 1 seed. The AFC also now. You got the Pats, the Dolphins, and Pittsburgh still alive for a playoff berth.
We'll put it this way: the Pats win, they get their spot.
Pats win, and they're in. They could also get in with a Miami, Pittsburgh, and Jacksonville loss. No, I'm sorry, Miami. Yeah, Miami, Pittsburgh, Miami loss, Pittsburgh loss, Jacksonville win. Miami can get in, win, and Pats loss, and Pittsburgh needs to win. New England and Miami lose.
Who's Miami starting this weekend? You have any idea? Name their starter. Name a quarterback on the Dolphins that's active.
You know what? I don't. I can't.
No way. I couldn't either. And I heard the guy's name right before you walked in the door before.
They'll still beat the Jets.
No clue who it is. No, they were like, which Jets? The Joe Flacco Jets?
The Jets that are coming on Sunday.
Not the Joe Flacco.
Joe Flacco last game of his career?
You want to make some money this weekend? Joe Flacco, over 350 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 rushing.
You know what I like, Brett? I like Tennessee money line and parlayed with Miami money line.
Oh, that's nice.
No, with Miami laying the points. Tennessee money line, Miami laying the points. That's my parlay of the
Wow.
The exact opposite of yours. And then we have in the NFC, there's only 1 spot left. Packers, Lions.
We brushed on that one, right?
A little bit. I mean, the line.
That's how good the game's going to be. But that's it. It's Packers, Lions. So Packers to win, but that's Aaron Rodgers. He's on a roll. They're playing in Lambeau. Lions just don't play well outdoors.
Packers.
It's a different Packer team. It's like it's the classic
Packers again. Every year it's announced Packers, Brady. We got all the usual suspects.
That's crazy.
The Giants look like they're cemented into that 6 seed. They're gonna more than likely play Minnesota in Minnesota.
Well, did you see now? There's chances that based on them, they're not playing this game. Just so you know, they're not playing that Bills.
No, the game's canceled.
The Bills game isn't getting played, but now they're working on they're having meetings right now, trying to decide
AFC Championship.
There's a good chance it's played at a neutral site. They could be played at a neutral site depending on
if seedings didn't work out. City against
no, not entirely because it's not just Kansas City versus
because there were 4 teams.
Cincinnati. That's right. It could be Kansas City, Cincinnati. It could be Buffalo, Kansas City. No, neutral site even for teams that were not involved in that game.
Now that's what they're voting on. They have not voted yet.
Yes,
but that's what they're voting on. The NFL owners have to vote.
What do you vote? Just play it as it lies.
Well, they were going to do winning percentage
because it would be a no contest.
I think what they're going to do. No, I think what they're voting on is it's going to probably be Kansas City wins. They get the extra game, so they have a higher winning percentage. It's going to be done by winning percentage rather than games won. Which okay, but Kansas City will have an extra game played this week if they beat the Raiders, which I'm sure they will. Their winning percentage will be higher with the same amount of wins.
Not high on Stidham.
Stidham played well last week. He did, but
that's why
the Chiefs score a ton of points. The Chiefs can score as many points as they need to.
They give up a lot of points.
Yeah, but they score more than everybody else. They do. They give up a ton of points, but they score.
Is that how they win?
I mean, yeah, that's how they win. I mean,
it works.
Listen, they got a great team. They're my probably pick.
I said Buffalo. In the last show, if you can't score 35 points, you're not going to go to the Super Bowl. Yeah, you can't. There's teams who can't score 35 points.
Giants.
No, they exist.
The Giants have not scored 30 points.
I'm not going to say they can't get to the Super Bowl, but they can't win it.
Yeah, no, listen.
You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be hard to win a championship game and a Super Bowl without scoring 35 points.
I don't even think that.
Your defense can do it. We've proven teams have proven that in the past.
The
A
AFC
defense can pull it off.
Yes.
And if you can keep people in the teens, if you can keep teams in the teens.
San Francisco is the closest thing to a defense like that. You're talking about the Bears, the 85 Bears, the Giants in 86.
But what's a good defense? Limiting a team to 2 touchdowns and a field goal.
The Ravens of 2000. Wait, what'd you say?
Yeah, a good defense, limiting a team to like 2 touchdowns and a field goal. In the playoff game, 17, like 15.
17's tough, Brett. 17's tough. I'd say under 30. But you got all teams under 30. Giants don't score 30. Giants haven't scored 30 once this season. It was last week.
No, I know.
That game was over in the first quarter. When Collins took back the pick six, it was over. But
you got
the Giants don't score points.
Yeah, but you got one guy on your team. And now listen, it's obviously coming down to your defense, your offensive line. I like Daniel Jones, but
they can beat Minnesota.
But there's certain guys that step up when the spotlight's on them. And Saquon Barkley, man, if you're a couple good days away, you know how it goes. You've watched guys in the past that you can run your way to a championship with a decent defense.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. Barry Sanders could never do it, but he could never get him in. And he's the kind of...
Contract year.
Yeah, he's already getting a big contract.
Well, they're offering multi-year deals to Daniel Jones, they said, and Saquon Barkley at the end of the year.
You know what? They both deserve it. They both deserve it. Daniel Jones has been really,
let's just hope they have different doctors than Correa.
Yeah. Well, let's see if they pass the physical. Saquon has leg issues, remember. So, that's what's going on there. The Mets, you mentioned with Correa, that thing's a whole mess.
We're going to let that settle itself. We'll figure it out.
That'll settle itself for this week.
Uncle Steve, you know what he's doing?
What?
He's building, and he's propositioning this whole thing to build
around the city.
Yeah. No, but but we're talking like into like massive thing. You know what he wants? You know what the long term goal is?
What?
He put in a bid for a casino next door.
Oh, we want.
So he's going to build it into a park. The whole new cityscape park. Get ready. He's like, it's all asphalt, but he's got bigger plans than just inside that.
You're talking about where the chop shops are, right?
Oh yeah. But he's got bigger plans than just inside that stadium. Which honestly, for me, that's like the coolest part. I think it'd be like to grow that into like one whole
like
awesome,
a little village.
Like because
Wrigley Field,
Flushing Meadows, Corona Park, and the whole deal. Willets Point, they have the most beautiful area right there, and they don't even go near it.
No, and that's gonna be big. The Mets are gonna be huge for us. We're coming into
this is
prime time. Best Mets of our lives in these next couple of years. But listen, we got one more week in the NFL.
Yep.
It's a good week. Like we just went over the games that matter. The Giants then will be into the playoffs. We'll see if the Giants play this week. I don't think they will. We want to thank the Dr. Mell.
Dr. Mell.
Expert. Great job, Dr. Mell. We want to thank Dr. McCormick, Jocelyn McCormick, for setting it up with us. I'll talk to you guys Sunday night.
Yeah, our best wishes out to Damar Hamlin.
Feel better?
Doctors, the nurses, all the people who took care of him.
Excellent
Those
job.
are the guys. Let me tell you, listen, you're going to see them every day. You're going to deal with them in your life. Take care of those people. Treat them right. They're the ones who help you. They're not doing it for anything.
We'll talk to you Sunday, everybody. See ya.